Good afternoon. This is Millie Warwick, February the 15th at Pickwick Sterling House. We are continuing with part 2 of Dale Benedict's military history story. I have asked Dale if he would continue before we go on to his first posting. We finished talking about his training, and before he goes into his first posting, chat just a little bit about his family and whether there was military service with any of his siblings.
Okay. Well, I'll start with my dad. He had the honor and privilege of working World War I, and he was over in France the maximum length of time for in World War I. He had been in the National Guard and been sent down to Texas to chase Pancho Villa and when they declared war. And he was sent over to France, where he went to Pershing's Officer Training School and got to be a second lieutenant.
And what was your father's full name?
Marion Elias Benedict.
Thank you.
And he ultimately, in the service there, got orders to take a certain hill in a battle and lost half their company. And in the process, he tried to stop a German mortar, which is not a good idea. Got quite severely wounded. In fact, he was reported killed in action before they discovered that that wasn't quite true. He survived many, many years after that. If he hadn't, I wouldn't be here. My brother, who was 3 years younger than I was, took Naval ROTC when he went to Madison for school, and thanks to Korea, got to serve a few extra years chasing up and down the Korean coast on a destroyer.
And your brother's full name?
He was Roger William Benedict, and he had many times, I guess, exciting adventures, shelling the North Korean coast with her, including after they'd been over there about 6 months. He was gunnery officer, and he said one day, they went up every day to shell that coast. And he says one day, he says, those North Koreans began to shoot back, and he said that they fired out every bit of 5-inch ammunition they had in 25 minutes, which burned all the rifling off the barrels. And so they had to come back after being over there 6 months to San Diego and get 15 days leave each, which broke their hearts. But he survived all that and became, actually he became editor of the oil and natural resources for the Wall Street Journal for a while, and got to travel up to the Alaskan coast on an oil tanker one day and got stuck in the ice and played around up there for a while. So enough of him.
Any other brothers or sisters?
Well, I got a sister, but she was never in the service.
Okay.
She was 6 years younger.
So your first posting?
Well, I was assigned to the USS Adirondack, which was an amphibious task force flagship. Flagship, by definition, means you have an admiral on board. That's his base ship. And the function of the amphibious task force flagship was to be the command post in amphibious landings. At the time that I was on the Adirondack, we had 18 of these vessels in the Navy. And so we had quarters on board for an admiral, a Marine general, and an Army general. And of course, we didn't have the other generals on board while we were messing around with Norfolk. As the war got over, we got the chance to float around the coast there a while, in the Atlantic, see if we could get seasick a few times. And that's an interesting phenomenon as you get out of, and other sailors have told me it's one of the worst spots in the world. You go out of the Chesapeake Bay, Hampton Roads area, which Hampton Roads is the largest natural harbor in the world. And when you leave that and enter the Atlantic, it looked like a nice mirror out there, smooth pond like in your backyard, but there's a big swell in it, and the ship was just rolling nicely. And since a good deal of the guys on our ship were first time out, there was a lot of seasickness. I did pretty well. I didn't get too bad. I was a little bit woozy, but I was in pretty good shape. I could keep on functioning. I was an electronics technician's mate, and our job was to maintain the radio, receivers and transmitters, and the radar gear, and sonar gear. Of course, we didn't have any sonar gear, but the normal complement on most vessels, like destroyers and cruisers and what have you, would be 1, 2, or maybe 3 ETMs on them. We had 21 on board, and we had over 100 radio transmitters and some 200 odd receivers, plus other miscellaneous gear. So we were equipped to be a flagship, command ship, really. And we had to keep, we found out, of course, right away. I was fortunate in that I was assigned to staff instead of ship's company, which meant I was under the admiral's staff instead of the ship's company, which is part of the ship. And this turned out to have a nice plus when we had time in port, because the normal ship ran on a three unit watch, and so they got liberty in port every other weekend or every third weekend. As long as I didn't have a watch assignment, I had a pass to let me go. And so I got to explore Norfolk and Hampton Roads and